بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستهديه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له. We start by praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, by saying the first word that was said by Adam alayhi salam. Alhamdulillah, thanks to Allah. Alhamdulillah, in which we start Surah Al-Fatiha every time, for every prayer, for every sunnah that we make, and for every fard that we make. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah that fills every cell in our bodies. We seek guidance in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for he who leads to the straight path will never be misguided. And it starts with an intention in the heart. And he who he misguides, he will never be guided. And it starts with an intention in the heart. Thus, the choice of a human being to make. And we bear witness that there is only Allah, the creator of the heavens of the earth. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. It is the visa to get you into heaven and to get you into Islam and thus into heaven. That we bear witness that Prophet Muhammad is the seal of all prophets alayhi salam. He delivered the message so that 1500 years later, you and I are in the furthest place away from Mecca, and Salah is being made, and the Salah is being, it's tuqam as-Salah in this masjid, because of the efforts of his effort and the effort of the Sahaba that carried this message to the corners of the earth. Today's khutbah, inshallah, will be about at-taghut, about tyranny. But first I start, like most those who make khutbah start with, I remind myself and myself first and foremost, and then I remind you being my ummah, to fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to be conscious of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and nattaqillah in every word we say, in every action we take, in every step we make, in every breath we take. For the guidance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can never happen if we don't have started and initiated with a niyyah of making taqwa, of being conscious of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is both the fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to be aware of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to be conscious of every aspect that we in our life, that it is guided by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For He has created every atom that exists in this universe, and those atoms do not move without the explicit guidance and guide of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And once you are aware of that reality, and once you are aware of that fact, and once you're aware that you're only responsible for the atoms within your body, that I can control this and I'm only asked about those within my being, then you will have serenity, that it doesn't matter what happens of calamities otherwise. As long as I'm doing my duty for which I am going to be asked, then I will have serenity in my heart. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, brothers and sisters, did not create us haphazardly. Things have a purpose. And in Surah Al-Kahf we continue to read about the story of the three stories of Musa alayhi salam, and with the knowledgeable man. And all three stories, if you think about it in terms of those who were inflicted upon, those events were inflicted upon them. Start with the boat. You have a boat. You barely have enough food to eat tomorrow. That boat is your survival. You get up every morning at 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning, you get in the boat and you get deep into the water and you throw your net to catch a fish so that you can feed yourself and your family. This fish you either sell or you eat your family. You come in the morning and you see the boat broken. Khidr took the boat and he destroyed it. He made a hole in the boat. That's your livelihood. You're not going to be happy. It is, from your perspective, as the owner of that boat, it is evil, something really bad that happened. But it is khair for you. And this is part of the iman. Al-iman billahi subhanahu wa ta'ala wa kutubihi wa rusulihi. The 7 pillars of iman. One of them is iman in qadar. You believe in the destiny that anything that happens to you is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Khayrihi wa sharrih. The good qadar and the bad qadar is all from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you know that it is good for you. If it wasn't for that hole in the boat, what would have happened? The king would have taken the boat and you would not have anything to live on. So it would be a disaster for you. So it is something you thought it was bad, but it is really good. Think about the next story. When Al-Khidr kills the boy, just imagine, and he didn't say, it talks about they having one child. Just imagine for a second, someone murders your child. Just imagine it. Step back for a second. Imagine that you've raised a child for so many, 6 years, 3 years, whatever that age of the boy is, and someone murders him for you. Someone murders that boy. What would you think of that? What would you as a mother think of that? You would think this is the epitome of evil, and you would think this is the worst thing that can ever happen. What did a child do to anybody to be killed? Right? You have to think from that perspective to understand. But it was good for them because that boy might have been raised to be a deviant boy. The one that is basically utterly evil, that does not believe in Allah, that basically fights Islam, that fights everything about that is decent about what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had created. Second story, and the last one, is when we know that he's hungry, Musa and Khidr is hungry, and they run you go to this village, they see a destroyed wall and they built it. They wouldn't even feed us. Why would you even do this? It's a good deed committed by the fathers. Committed by the fathers so that the children can inherit. Committed by who? By the fathers so that the children can inherit. أما الجدار فكان لغلامين في المدينة وكان تحته كنز لهما. Under this wall that is broken, that has fallen apart, there is a treasure for 2 kids whose father كان صالحا, was righteous. You think it's useless act. You think it's bad, but it is not. Believing in this, having clear vision of reality. This is reality. We're hit by this all the time. Everybody among us have seen their boat, a hole in their boat. But a lot of times we don't even know why. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says it in the Quran. وَكَيْفَ the knowledgeable Khidr, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is quoting al-Khidr, وَكَيْفَ تَصْبِرُ عَلَى مَا لَمْ تُحِطْ بِهِ خُبْرًا. How are you going to bear withstanding having sabr on something you have no knowledge of? But that's iman. That is iman. That's what it comes down to. It's iman. Something bad happened, alhamdulillah. I know this is good for me. And if shaitan comes and whispers in your ear, knowledgeable shaitan, who used to pray on who made sujood for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in every spot on this planet that we live on, but with a bad intention, into hellfire. Another archetypal embodiment of an example of maintaining the path and not living with the eternal sin of arrogance. This is the first of all sins. Arrogance. Me. I'm the one. This is what leads to tyranny. Once we have focus on that aqdar of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is meant for us, وَمَا أَصَابَكَ مَا كَانَ لِيُخْطِئَكَ. What hit you was never gonna miss you. Who's throwing? Who's aiming? It is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You think you're gonna be missed? You're not gonna be missed. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala plans something for you, it's gonna happen. Once you have the serenity of belief that anything that happens to me is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, good and bad. And once you understand that tyranny starts with arrogance, then you can move to the second stage of understanding tyranny around the world that we live in. And this is something for us to think about. And that is exemplified in the story of Musa and Fir'aun. A story like no other in the Quran. Because in the Quran, there is no more stories in the Quran more extensive than the story of Musa alayhi salam. 20 surah in the Quran cover the story between Musa and Fir'aun. 20 surahs. Around 37 ayat talks about Fir'aun himself. This is what we need to be contemplating and thinking about. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم. واعلموا أن الله أمركم بأمر عظيم. For Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has ordered you to do something great. And He started with Himself. He ordered us, يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما كثيرا. Make salat on Prophet Muhammad, especially on Jum'ah. Especially on Jum'ah. The ulama have, if I remember correctly, they have 42 benefits from making salat on Prophet Muhammad. And we know the Sahabi that came to Prophet Muhammad and asked alayhi salatu wasalam, how many times should I make salah on you? And he said 1/3, a quarter, 1/5, and he would keep telling him, the more the better for you. Nusf, half of it, the more the better for you. Especially on the day of Jum'ah. Especially on the day of Jum'ah. Allahumma salli wa sallim wa barik ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ali Sayyidina Muhammad. The stories in the Quran are not about historical facts. The Quran doesn't list stories. It's not a historical book. Because if it was, then stories would have the names of the cities in which events happened, the dates, and who was the ruler, and the economic status, and all the whole economic study and all the historical study that you usually see when you are talking about a historical event. The Quran doesn't talk about any of that. The Quran gives us archetypal embodiment of certain behavior from which we need to learn. We need to be aware of. If it is an archetype of Iman, then that is what we copy. If it is an archetypal embodiment of evil, of tyranny, that's what we need to avoid. And when you read the surah, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chooses a surah in the Quran, it is specifically for the purpose of us going to live that story. One way or the other. One way or the other. It doesn't matter. The name doesn't matter. Fir'aun. Doesn't matter. Name it anything you want. Any Arab or ruler, tyrant Arab ruler. Doesn't matter. Zain al-Abidin, Mubarak, this or that, or Salih of Yemen, doesn't matter, names don't matter. Repetition, they're copies, clones of Fir'aun. Small and big, but Fir'aun was the leader of them. Because not only his tyranny reached so much so that you needed to approve and accept that he is God. And if you didn't accept it, he will kill you for it. This is the ultimate in tyranny. Because I'm not just being tyrannical because Fir'aun is not just being tyrannical in his behavior, stealing your money, controlling your lives, dictating what happens in your house and your home and your money. It's not just economical, it's not just social, it is belief. He comes into your own heart. He wants to rule over that. So much tyranny, he wants to control your heart. That's why he leads his people on the day of hellfire to hellfire. There are about 6 cornerstones of the story of Fir'aun. 6 cornerstones that keep repeating. The first cornerstone in the story is Fir'aun himself. The tyrannical king, the tyrannical president, the tyrannical ruler. I am it, most powerful. I am obeyed. وَإِنَّا عَلَيْكُمْ لَقَادِرُونَ. And we have power over you. That's how he used to speak. This is the lingo that he used. And he believes that he owns the earth and everything on it. Everything on it. Including the right to murder you and chop you into pieces and hide you. Right? And then it becomes all over the news. Tyrannical. حرم النفس قتل النفس. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it haram. It says haram. You can be tyrannical if you want, but you can't kill people. You cannot do this to people. You can't kill people and then chop them up. You can't go into cities where you have peaceful demonstrators and kill them in masses. It is haram for you to do that. You cannot violate the basics of being a human being. Islam, Christianity, Judaism. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not send Prophet Muhammad or Prophet Moses or Prophet Ismail or Prophet Isa alayhi salam to animals. He sent him to human beings. So the first category, you have to be a human being. If you violate that fact and you start acting like an animal, where you shoot people and you shoot demonstrators like we see in Sudan today, this is animal behavior. Even animals don't do this. You don't go into a city and level it down. Whatever the reason is. You can make all the excuses in the world. You cannot do that. That is haram. There are things, there are no discussion about them. There's no disagreement. If I pick up the phone and I call Siberia and the masjid in Siberia, Assalamu alaikum, how many ruk'ah is Salatul Dhuhr? 4. I hang up and I pick up the phone and I call Indonesia. How many ruk'ah is Salatul Dhuhr? 4. I hang up and I call Argentina. I call a masjid in Argentina. How many ruk'ah is Salatul Dhuhr? 4. Killing human beings is agreed upon. There is nothing two ways about it. No two ways about it. You cannot murder people like this. Even if you're a Muslim and you believe you have a right to rule because you're ruling justly and people revolt against you, it means it's time for you to withdraw and start educating people. But you cannot murder them. We have to start understanding these basic concepts and hold on to it. We have to learn from every civilization that happened before us and that came after us, that has to do with decency and with justice. Part of that justice, for example, is something that the world civilization have achieved in the United States, and by separation of powers. This is something we need to learn from, because if we had this, the judge, it cannot be ruled by the ruler. No, you can't. And we saw the story, we all know the story. Sayyidina Umar jumps into the house where these guys are drinking alcohol. Oh, you didn't, I'm gonna have you flog. I'm gonna have you, basically, you're gonna get lashes for this. No, you enter the house without saying Salamu Alaikum, and you did not enter from the house, from the door. So he goes to Imam Ali, someone saw this happen. Is there another witness? No. What happens if one speaks? He gets lashes because he is making false accusation, because you don't have enough proof. How about if it was the Khalifa? Then the Khalifa get lashed. Nobody is above the law. Nobody is above the akhlaq of this ummah. Nobody is above the rule of this ummah. Nobody is above the shara of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You cannot violate those. Next one, after the tyrannical ruler comes the prime minister or the minister. He believes he has the right to do everything possible to deceive the people so that they submit to Fir'aun. And that is the story of Haman. Haman was, this whole purpose in life was this. How can I twist words and play with the laws so that I can do what? Everybody submits to Fir'aun. Next cornerstone. The third one is the businessman. I have millions of dollars. I'm going to use that money because that's, I made this money through this tyrant ruler. I have to keep this money safe. My interest, and you hear this word by tyrants talking about their interest. Interest is not, your interest is not a law. It's not a law. Your interest does not give you any right to do anything. My interest is to be the richest man on the planet Earth, so I can go kill as many people to get their money. That's not an interest. Who cares about this interest? Your interest doesn't matter. What matters is the right and wrong and the rule of law. And that is the story of Qarun. Qarun, that's his whole story. He has lots of wealth and he's playing games, spending money right, left and center. $700 billion were spent by UAE to subvert the Arab Spring. $700 billion. Your money and my money. This is the money of the Ummah. Where does that go? The fourth corner. The religious man. The religious man. The imam. The scholar. And we see them. In Syria, Hassoun, he makes laws from Shara as he pleases. At will. At will. And they all do the same. It's okay to sell Palestine? Yes, it is okay to sell Palestine. If you go to now this what is known as the Safqat al-Qarn, the deal of the century, where we're trying to sell Palestine altogether, everything in it. Yes, fatwa, you have the right to do so. Good for you. This is represented by the Sahara, by the magicians who have knowledge how to deceive people and play with their eyes and and run stunts in front of them and make them see things that are not true. And the third one, Al-Hashirun. It is the group of people that come, let's go watch them. What do these guys say? وَقِيلَ لِلنَّاسِ هَلْ أَنْتُمْ مُجْتَمِعُونَ. And they asked people, are you going to gather around? لَعَلَّنَا نَتَّبِعُ السَّحَرَةِ. Maybe we follow the Sahara. We follow the magicians. إِن كَانُوا هُمُ الْغَالِبُونَ. If they're the ones that win. Listen to this. That's me and you. This is the masses of the people. Their calculation is that we should believe, follow the Sahara, those religious scholars, those who have knowledge to play games with our eyes, if they win. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't say in the Quran, when He talks about in the Quran, anything about what happens if they lose. They don't make that calculation. Make that calculation. Think about the repercussions of the decisions you make. If that tyrant fails, then your interest disappears. I'm about 2 minutes above my time. So inshallah I will close, dear brothers and sisters. At the end of the day, we live on this life a very short time. Very short time. And we will be asked about our responsibility in what we give. If you have the ability to carry 20 pounds and you only carry 1 pound, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to ask you to come here. I gave you the power to carry 20 pounds and you only used 1 pound, carried 1 pound. Your abilities, you're responsible for their amana. If you have the intellect to help this ummah in any way, you will be asked about it. Wallahi al-azim, you will be asked about it. Wallahi al-azim, every single one of us will be asked about it. And don't play, we shouldn't play dumb with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I can't, I'm weak. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows if you're weak. And if you can carry half a pound, then you can carry half a pound. And He'll ask you for that. But if you can carry more, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will know. And He will ask you for it. إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون اذكروا الله العظيم يذكركم واشكروه يزدكم واستغفروا الله يغفر لكم واتقوه يجعل لكم من أمركم مخرجا وأقم الصلاة.